What's going on, bros? Welcome back to another Lantern Year in Review video for 2023. Today we're going to be talking about the Black Knight update mostly.
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 Yep. So we are going to kick things off where we ended the first part of this, which would be the update after the Gen Con update, which would be I guess this is just letting everyone know that Gambler's Chest is 97% filled. Our favorite number in the KDM fan base, 97%. Which is great. At this time, I think pretty much everybody had it. I do know. I think I was definitely streaming at this time, and I know I wasn't like one of the first to get it. I do know that. Did you have your Gambler's Chest by this time?
My Gambler's Chest was very delayed. Because I'm in Canada, it took forever to get to me. So I had already seen everything everybody posted and had everything spoiled for me. So I had to, it was a little bit painful. I remember the day too, because I was at work and I had to go to my neighbor and I was like, if you see this package just show up on my doorstep, please just grab it, move it. It's like 30 pounds. Don't worry about it. Just don't let anybody like steal it off my porch. But yeah, when we were talking, they just happened to show up. So it was very relieving.
On to the future. We have the Black Knight, which is in production at this point. We have all kinds of cool stuff. The interesting thing here with this is all of these update photos were something we eventually got to see much better when it wasn't too long after this, because I think the pre-orders went along with this update. Is that correct? I think you could pre-order, and then when you went to the pre-order, the backer kit site, all these images were huge, and we got to really good look at all this stuff.
Yeah, and Bra reminded me of this like while I was in the middle of trying to squint all the details out of these photos for my notes. So luckily he did that before I was at the end, because it was painful trying to get details out of these photos. But the backer kit versions were like so crisp, so high quality, excellent stuff.
Now it is interesting. We still have yet to get the pre-order for Frog Dog, so interesting. Maybe we'll get the same treatment for Frog Dog.
I think we'll see more from Frog Dog probably in February or January. Well, I guess it's January right now, but like later on in January. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just hope it gets the same treatment. The backer kit will have a whole bunch of nice pictures.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we'll see that.
I think so too. So the pictures we're talking
starting
about,
off,
we have again, all the ones here from the update are the ones that transferred over. So if you go back and you look at this update, just know that there were higher quality ones, that you can still find them. They are shared in the Discord and things. But I'll have all the better ones in the on screen now. So if you're wondering how I got better quality, again, it came from the backer kit. So what do you want to start talking about?
So this update just pretty much starts out showing off the book material. Nothing too crazy on that. I do just want to make note that the new style of the books is like really looks high quality. Like it to the point where it makes the Expansions of Death Volume 1 rule books look kind of low quality in comparison. I love the gold leaf kind of stylization that they did. So I'm looking forward to seeing the updates for Campaigns of Death for those books as well. I know they're going to be kind of in one rule book, but you know what I mean. Sheer Cliffs basically explains how during the showdown, you can be pushed off of the showdown board, and if you're pushed off a certain amount, you will die. Or you'll just fall off to your death. Yeah. So I think the rules specifically say, like, if you have 1 or 2 knockback remaining, that you have a 1d10 chance of catching yourself and climbing back up onto the showdown board. But if it's anything more than that, you're going to be flung to your death. So pretty brutal, especially considering the Black Knight's mechanics of ricocheting you off of the Elastomere statues in the Black Knight Sanctuary. So it really depends. I'm not super familiar with the Gen Con demos, but I think it really depends on how often survivors interact with those statues and like how frequent it is that you are knocked back by them, right? So
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. It's gonna be
I
hard to
can see it.
speak to like how deadly this trait is or how much. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So the Black Knight's other trait card that was showed off is called Seasoned Duelist, and essentially it just gives the Black Knight 3 evasion unless you're attacking from the blind spot. So this fight automatically really rewards getting behind the Black Knight, which I'm assuming is a little bit difficult because it's cramped quarters on the
Mm-hmm.
showdown board. Um, Probably all those urns and stuff you have to navigate around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it this is the first time we're going to experience a showdown in like very claustrophobic conditions, right? Normally the showdown board is just completely open space. You're free to move around pretty much in every direction, and this new showdown against Black Knight is going to be like very tight. Like,
Yeah. Well, we did get the Bone Eater encounters, which are also very claustrophobic.
mhm.
So, but this will be. You can see from these updates here. You can see the dungeon tiles. I don't know. I don't the Citadel tiles. I guess
Mhm.
you can see them here, and I'm very interested into how this works. Whether they're random drawn or whatever, because you can see here you can't really tell how it is you're going to set this up, but you can see from the showdown setup you start with two, and they will be a 4x4 square that eventually create. I think that just shows you probably start with the 2x2, and then you're going to build out this 4x4 grid, and it will probably be random each time. I know Kingdom Death
Yeah,
really the randomation is like the heart of Kingdom Death, so I don't think you'll ever get bigger than this 4x4 grid itself that you lay out on the tiles. So I guess, yeah, it depending, this claustrophobia will be, you could really badly draw a tile. You could draw a very bad edge tile.
yeah, for sure. I do agree. This reminds me of like kind of games like Subterra, where you build the board out, right? Like it's like
Yeah,
procedurally generated
this is
for those tiles.
definitely, this is the most Hero Questy of Hero Questy things. This is exactly how Hero Quest worked. You'd build a dungeon with generated dungeon tiles. Each dungeon for Hero Quest, you'd put a dungeon tile down, and then there'd be a door on each side of the dungeon tile. Or, it depends. Some rooms would be a T room, some would be a one way, one in, one out. Some would be a 4-way junction. But regardless, either way, what you drew, you added the doors where they told you, and then when you'd walk through the door, you drew another dungeon tile. So this is very dungeon crawly reminiscent.
This development as a rule set is going to be cool going forward. You could do all kinds of crazy vignettes and encounter monsters using the same style of um, tile generation, right?
Yep.
Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about some gear that's showcased in the update. The first one is the Clasping Shield, which is a seed pattern card. It has block 2. And the rules say if another survivor would collide with you due to knockback, instead end their knockback and place them standing in the nearest space to you. So essentially, the concept is that the shield grabs the survivor and basically stops them from being knocked back. That obviously has some interesting use for regular monster fights, but it has a lot of synergy with the Black Knight Showdown. So as you're getting thrown around by these elastomer statues, you can have one of your teammates surge, or sorry, dash, and move into a position where they could save you from falling off the edge of the board, basically.
Yep.
I think it's really interesting because it's going to have a lot of synergy with other inverted mountain monsters. Like Nightmare Ram's also supposed to have this fall off the edge and die
Yep.
kind of effect, and I'm assuming the Griffin will as well. The crafting requirements for the Clasping Shield is 1 times iron, 2 times scrap. You need an insane survivor with tumble. One of the things I was interested about with that is that referring to tumble the knowledge card or tumble the fighting art? Does it matter? can use it for either.
Probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, probably not, but
I would hope.
interesting that there might be that distinction, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see the other pattern card.
You also need the sculpture innovation and the blacksmith settlement location. So you do require quite a bit to craft this seed pattern. But you can ideally craft it before you have a showdown with the Black Knight. Do note that it does have the Era 3 scrap requirement, so you would require a Node 3 monster with a scrap resource in order to craft this. So me and you have talked about this before, so that'd be like the Phoenix has the Phoenix's eye as a scrap.
It's not easy to get. Dragon King helps, which makes sense, maybe lore-wise, since they hunted Dragon Kings. But a lot of Dragon King stuff is scrap.
So technically, you wouldn't be able to craft this until you've had your first showdown against a Node 3 monster.
And you drew the one-ofs. In Phoenix's case, I think it's a one-of.
One of the things that I thought was kind of cool with this gear was that it has finesse, so you can polish it with the polishing lantern that was introduced in the legendary card pack or Kingdom Death 1.6, and buff it up to 9 strength, so it can get pretty beefy.
Mm-hmm.
It could even potentially be a worthwhile piece of gear to bring against like the God Hand fight for spoiler reasons that we won't talk about, but. And I hope that they include the rules for how to incorporate it into the node system. It might be like based on what we're going to talk about later in the Black Friday update is with the content generation, the campaign creation system that's being applied, right? Like Dreamkeeper, People of the Dreamkeeper is I forget the terms. It's like destined campaign.
Yep.
Or foretold campaign. So, with that defined, you wouldn't be able to replace the hand in a Dreamkeeper campaign. But if you want to do a Dreamkeeper adjacent campaign, I don't know how they're going to affect it. I guess it's kind of like doing a People of the Lantern campaign, but using Dragon King instead of Phoenix and using Spidicules instead of
this is
Antelope.
I said this in the other video that I talked about when this update actually came. When I talked about this specific update, that video I mentioned that this is one of the better expansions for us to see as a starter for Wave 4. I mean, I would have loved to get First Hero right away as the first one out of Wave 4, but as for what you're getting from Black Knight, this is going to be very telling because it's going to be how this will be a representative of how the node system will flow going forward, because this is a very rigid. Currently, the hand is very rigid. There's no replacements. You use it all the time. It's our only Node 3. So this is a very, very telling thing of what to expect with the future of Wave 4, is how this will be handled. I'm hoping it's not just going to be a special showdown that just says throw it in if you want. I'm hoping that's not how the future looks. So.
The next gear card shown on that image was the Marchian S Solarettes. So this is the second piece of Marchian S gear that we've seen. The first were the Marchian S gloves. Those were in like a 2022, I think the black.
I think you can see them on the vignettes too.
Yeah, you gain them. You gain these regular pattern cards. So you gain them through events, basically. I think after you defeat the Black Knight, you can find these pattern cards. The gear itself's really good. It says gain +2 movement while you have a sword in your gear grid. So in my opinion, that's almost like auto-include on sword specialists and masters. Just looking at the gloves that were shown before, they were 4 armor and they had an ability. This could have changed a lot. Like, this is quite old now at this point. But they had an ability, Riposte. When you block or deflect a hit, gain an activation at the start of your next act, limit once per round. So this set seems really, really highly geared towards sword users, especially swords that have deflect. And I'm looking forward to how the rest of the armor works. We can see in the Black Knight update as well that it has 6 armor. Originally it was shown it had 4. The gloves have 4 armor. They could be like a mixed up set of armor, but probably the whole set got a buff, I imagine.
Probably, yeah. The other thing that's really nice about this update is when you go down to the next image here, where it shows all the cards, you can see they're including tactics cards, which many people had questioned what's going on with tactics cards.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that tactics cards were going to go away. I think maybe the team has kind of figured out how to use tactic cards or how to integrate them a little bit more into the game, because right now they feel very tacked on, I think. And there's something else in one of the future updates where it's like kind of suggests that a little bit more is going towards that.
Tactics cards are something I've wanted to revisit ever since I've gotten my Gambler's Chest. Because the thing that used to be not super great about the tactics cards was in order to utilize them, you needed to have the badge in your gear grid. But now with scouts, you can just throw that on your scout.
Okay, the next image showcases some of the armor set cards. We get 4 of them in this set. One of them's the Squire armor. It's not really worth talking about. It doesn't really do anything particular except giving you 1 armor to each hit location.
Yeah, it's likely just the vignette set.
Yeah, I am hoping that we're able to craft this outside of the vignette, but maybe not.
No, it's the same thing as clothed and sated.
We also see the count armor, which has the effect when you attack with a melee weapon. If it is not your first attack this round, cancel any wound reaction on hit locations drawn. So this is a huge buff for any kind of like surge build. And canceling wound reactions is huge too.
Yeah. I wonder how much these or how difficult these armors are to get.
I'm hoping that when you trigger the event, you get like all of the patterns or none of them, right? Like you can choose which set you get all the pattern cards for.
Yeah.
But you have to choose like I'm going to take count armor, I'm going to take
Yeah, that's how
armor,
Lion
or
Knight
I'm
does
gonna
it.
take
Lion Knight, you can choose
Marchioness
which one you
armor.
want.
So that would be a good way to gate these because these armor sets do seem really strong overall, right? Unfortunately, from this image, we can't see the Marchioness's armor set's bonus. Has something to do with a movement, gaining a movement or using a movement or something like that. But we can see the Earl armor. Earl armor says double any bonuses earned by other survivors when you encourage. I think this one will tie more in with the actual Earl armor set cards. We had seen previously a piece of this gear set in the 2022 Dark Herald update. It says, whenever you encourage, roll 1d10 on a 6+, all affected survivors gain +1 survival. So that armor set bonus really ties in, I think, with the Earl raiment or the Earl gear cards, like the individual armor gear cards, versus any specific existing game mechanic. Is there any other situations you can think of where this would really come into play?
No. I would not without seeing the rest of the gear, because if it's anything like these sets really play into what it was, what the sets do. It would seem, because the boots were the ones that gave you the extra movement when you have a sword, and yeah, I know, like you said, we can't read it, but it seems that this would trigger off movement stuff. So, without seeing the rest of the armor and what everything would do, I can't think of too many situations.
There's probably a couple of fighting arts or abilities that give you like a survival buff or something like that when you encourage. But yeah, it's not a super common effect in the game currently.
Yeah, there's got to be a piece of armor that makes it more reliable. A piece of gear within the armor, I mean.
The other piece of gear that was shown off, this is backing up a little bit to the count armor. It was the Count's helm, and it has an ability Shred. Spend an attribute token, activate a melee weapon and attack. Limit once per round. So it has this counterplay of like, you know, consuming your tokens, negative tokens included, in order to get that additional kind of fake surge that you're looking for in order to
for the
trigger
armor to activate.
Armor effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's gonna be much the same with the Earl. There's got to be something we haven't seen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot that we haven't seen, but
Well,
it's um, it's really clear that these armor sets are really designed to synergize with themselves. But I could see with the Marchioness set and the Count armor set, there's a little bit more outside of just the armor set that they can be used with, right?
oh yeah, for sure. I don't know how you would do it reliably. It's very interesting. It's hard for me to like pull off the top of my head now combos because I always like in my head now I always stuck between thinking, well, am I using an arc survivor or am I using a regular survivor?
Well, it's kind of tying into that because I wanted to talk about the Vignette Survivor gear grids, which have a bunch of Squire gear printed onto them. So we are able to read all that. So we're able to see how these Squires play in their 5-year campaign. So the first piece of gear that is showcased is a Squire tool belt. It has an activation cost. Put a token on this. If you would suffer knockback while there's a token on this, remove a token and place your survivor on the closest unoccupied space instead. So this is obviously a counterplay to being knocked back by the Black Knight, and it lets you kind of rescue yourself from being launched off of the showdown board if you have enough tokens built up. The Squire Hood has an activation where you may reveal the top card from either the AI or the hit locations. If the trap is revealed in this way, suffer 3 brain damage, otherwise you may discard it. So essentially it's kind of like a mixture of rawhide bandana, cat eye circlet, kind of that hood from the Twilight Knight, the
Yeah.
dormant Twilight cloak. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like one of those, you know, card draw type reveal mechanic cards.
Yeah. A mechanical card.
So it is interesting to see all 4 squires have that built into their grid, right? So
Yeah, it
there's
is interesting.
not like a dedicated like support character. They all have the opportunity to manipulate the decks in this way.
Yeah, this is something I had thought about as to why you would give this to all of them. I don't know why. Oh, I mean, I don't. Again, it's nice because it alleviates the fact that someone's not going to be doing a dedicated support person while they play this 5-year campaign. Everybody can fill that role, so you're not always asking the same player to do it. I'm assuming that's probably why, but at the same time, they're all wearing the same gear, so that is why they all have that ability. But it is interesting as to why you would do this in the 5-year campaign, and it might speak to how difficult or how easy it's meant to be. Because providing so much hit location and AI manipulation might prove that it's going to be really challenging and you might need it, or it's going to be a crutch that will say, hey, let's just get through this 5-year campaign.
Yeah. I think kind of feeding into that, the Blackguard Knife, that's another gear card on the gear grid, kind of suggests that. Like, it's a strong weapon for kind of, I guess I have this kind of mental picture of 5-year campaigns being kind of on the easier side, but it's like a strong weapon, right, for fighting this Node 3 Nemesis monster. It's 3, 6 plus 5. It has Deadly and Persistence 1. If you're like me and cannot remember what persistence means, it's on a perfect hit, gain plus X survival, so you'd gain plus 1 survival in this case. And then it also gives you the added benefit of on a perfect hit, if you are attacking from the blind spot, gain plus 1 luck for this attack. So on a perfect hit, you're going to be getting plus 1 survival and plus 1 luck when you're attacking from the blind spot, which you are, again, rewarded for doing when fighting the Black Knight, right? Because of the trait card that we had spoken about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a lot of their gear is really tuned to kind of negate or play into the aspects of Black Knight, maybe making it generally like an easier fight for the squires themselves than it would be for regular survivors.
Maybe, but again, they're not fighting just the Black Knight, which we can talk about. we'll talk about the White
Yeah.
Lion.
Yeah, so the last two pieces of gear are the Squire Tunic, which reduces all damage to hit locations by 1 to a minimum of 1. When your chest armor points reach 0, loses effect for the rest of the showdown. This is kind of like the White Lion Cloak, I think, does a similar effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Squire Sandals, when you're knocked down, roll 1d10. On a 6+, you nimbly recover and stand. This one's huge. Like, if Squire Sandals are available for regular survivors, like, that is a great piece of gear to have.
Oh, yeah. All this gear is really powerful, even when not comparing it to the 5-year campaign, right? If this stuff is available, this stuff is like... It's hard to gauge exactly what a Nemesis Node 3 should be. I'm really excited for Black Knight because, like I said, this is one of the best ones to get out of the gate, to get a real taste of what Wave 4 is, because we've never seen anything replace hand or anything that even gets near to what a Node 3 should be, because the hand itself is always a weird one because most people don't even fight it.
One of the cards that we can talk about is shown in the update. It is a new settlement event for Black Knight called It Rang. The event itself is hard to read, but it was possible to make out that it does grant survivors the Way of the Rust ability. I thought this was interesting to look at because previously this ability has only been available to survivors through the Rust constellation in a People of Stars campaign specifically. And because of this kind of relationship that was established between Black Knights and Dragon Kings in some of the artwork that was shown like years ago, I do think it has some importance. It'll be interesting to see if there's any other People of the Stars, Dragon King related abilities or disorders or fighting arts that are referenced or granted through Black Knight. I imagine it'll be mostly like any kind of card-based edition probably won't be granted because I don't think they would double print them across expansions like that. But this gives a whole kind of potential for all kinds of abilities from the People of the Stars campaign being added into a non-People of the Stars campaign, I suppose, right? Like, it's not gated to...
Well, and it's just
that
the
kind of
ability itself, which is, just an ability.
Mhm.
So, as to why it's there, I have no idea. I don't know if it's like... Do you know what it was originally hinting towards? The original Way of the Rust? Because I don't know if this is trying to hint towards, like... Is it exactly the same?
I didn't really like make any notes on this because I didn't want to speculate too much about the lore, but
Well, I meant, do you
the
know
Rust
if,
constellation...
like, the Way of the Rust, it might be different? Because I know there's, like... the whole theme is, like, the Citadel itself's falling apart and the squires are tending to the knight's armor and stuff. So, I don't know. It seems so odd to include it, but...
The Way of the Rust ability says your bleeding tokens are also +1 evasion tokens. So it doesn't really immediately link up to anything that is, Black Knight centric, I suppose, or any of the lore, I guess, that we've seen for Black Knight. In my mind, it doesn't. The most important thing to me as far as lore goes is that this was People of the Stars Dragon King related event, and we had already seen that connection established. There was artwork that was shown before with a Black Knight kind of like holding a sword above like the skull of a Dragon King. Again, I don't want to make any kind of like lore speculation, but I do think that's not unintentional. I don't think they're like, oh, we need an ability to throw in here. Like, that definitely was something that has very interesting lore connotations, and I think we'll see that explored a little bit more in some of the other content in the Black Knight expansion. But when I saw that, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
you can put the neuron activation monkey meme in this section of the video for the viewers. This photo also shows the duty bound knowledge card, right?
True.
So you were saying, I think we had spoken about this before, and you had said it looks like it's 3 levels. I wanted to kind of return to that and say that I definitely think it's 3 levels because looking back through the monster specific knowledge cards from Gambler's Chest, the majority of them are 3 levels. I think it's like only the king has 1 card for its monster
Correct.
knowledge, but all the other monsters have 3. So it would be fitting with those other monsters that the Black Knights was only 3 levels, or
Correct.
was 3 levels.
I agree. You can kind of notice the reflection on the bottom of the cards. It does look like the one on the left is the level 2 because it looks like there's a bluish hue on the reflection of the white surface. And if you look at the one on the right, it looks like there's a reddish hue, which would be indicative of a dangerous observation. Or it's a full art card that has a dark bottom and not a bluish. Can you see the 2 hues on the left and the right?
Yeah, I think that's excellent detective work.
So I agree. It's definitely 3. So that'll be very interesting to see. We can't even really speculate on this at all because the one we can't see is a theory.
That's pretty much all we could say about it. Yeah.
But yeah, interesting stuff. Let's talk about the 5-year campaign, the Squires of the Citadel campaign. So we have the top left here on this. You'll see it here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm assuming these are the lantern years. If you notice, you do not draw settlement events. They're not listed here on the timeline. You'll have events each time, which is interesting. None of these show to be a fight, but I'm assuming they either all are, or they all have events that trigger fights within them. But as you can see, there's no like nemesis, no level or anything here. So it's all very spoiler free. You can also see here the innovation. There's only like the 2, which is very interesting. Now you have the suspicions for the milestones, which is kind of cool because you don't see on the cards themselves the suspicion cards at the bottom. Since they're not like knowledge cards, they don't have these boxes. So you must just track the observations. Again, they're probably not observations. They're just things that happen in the fight. You track them on the settlement record sheet themselves, which is cool. And this is the thing I didn't notice the first time I looked at this. This one slipped past me. But at the bottom of the Squires of the Citadel timeline, the record sheet here, you can see there's 4 boxes. Each one of these appears to be a event. Like, you can see it says here, like, they're not ARC survivors. They're definitely regular survivors, I think, because it says age 1, age 2, age 3, age 4. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what the bottom one here is. I don't know if it's insight or retired. I think it says retired, but very cool. So
They definitely are regular survivors because they gain fighting arts as part of their milestones.
yes, then they trigger age. Now the interesting thing here is this makes them all different, which is very cool. I had wondered how this exactly would work, these 5-year campaigns and things. Whether or not you just get the 5 survivors, it'd be static and you just play through it. But it does look like the story's going to be pretty involved. They each are going to play very differently and gain stuff very differently. So
I think there is definitely a lot more hinted to in regards to how differently they play.
yes,
If you look at Elle's vignette card, when it's describing her as a character, it says that she has red hair, but that's bolded as a game term.
mm-hmm.
And then, meanwhile, the Black Knight also has a trait card called Red Preference. So, in certain situations within the showdown, the Black Knight is going to trigger Red Preference, and that's a reference to Percival as the Black Knight's previous owner, right? She had red hair.
Correct.
So he probably might see Elle as Percival, or like there might be moments where he sees Elle as Percival and you know, be surprised or shocked or whatever, right?
Correct.
Which is actually very sad if you think about it.
Yeah, this is gonna be very cool. I don't know how this
Yeah.
slipped past me the first time where I didn't notice this stuff. It's probably maybe because when this came out, maybe the first time I saw it. No, I would have had Gambler's Chest. Well, Gambler's Chest was just so fresh. I guess I had blinders on. Now that I,
Yeah, it comes out and you're excited. You're trying to like talk about it and look at all the stuff coming out and keep up with the Discord and all kinds of stuff. So it is really easy to miss, and like we kind of are going over with a fine tooth comb right now.
yeah,
So
when we took notes for all this stuff, but this is so
yeah.
cool. The reaching the age milestone and stuff. It does limit the replayability of the thing because you're not going to be. It's always going to be the same when you hit these milestones. Like you're not going to get it something very random and stuff. But it is neat that these campaigns are more story focused, story driven. The narrative seems to be the driving point rather than the organic storytelling that you normally get through Kingdom Death, where everything's done at random. So that's really cool.
One of the other little details that was shown on the vignette cards is we can see on Kane's vignette card that he has a rare gear called the Black Gauntlet. We don't have any other information about it, but you know, again, it's another way that these survivors, like we were talking about how they all have the same gear grid, I guess base gear grid earlier, but really there's going to be situations where they're become more and more differentiated from each other as the story progresses, right?
Yeah, and even the story in itself has triggers that will do milestones. As you can see here in the book, under the victory condition for the Mountain Lion for Lantern Year 2, it says if Owen learned Zero Presence, it does animal empathy, which is, again, I don't know if you ever tried getting Zero Presence from a lion, but that ain't easy.
Yeah, no, I've never gotten Zero Presence, so
It's not easy.
I do got to say though, I love the artwork for the Mountain Lion story event, and I think the way that they're handling the story events in the 5-year campaign with that one kind of page, or I guess 2-page spread showing all the events and kind of all those 5 years as they progress, I think that's a really really great way to establish how these 5-year campaigns should look and feel.
Oh, yeah. I think this is all good. Everything here is great. I'm loving what I'm seeing from these 5-year campaigns. They're much more than what I thought they would be. I can say that 100%. Much more than what I thought they would be. I never thought they would be exactly something like this. I never thought we'd be seeing unique monsters like this mountain lion here. This is like another way to upgrade the regular old white lion. I mean, these traits are kind of crazy, especially this one, but the one that's shown. But there's also another one. I think there's another 2 actually for the traits here. But any way you can do to make monsters more variable is great. We'll talk about another 5-year campaign, or well, multiples of them when we get to the Black Friday update. But very neat.
Yeah, I think that mountain predator trait is really brutal.
Oh yeah.
It really makes it so that you have to ensure that your survivor positioning is like on point basically.
Yeah. The nice thing about this.
I
Okay. Well, the nicest thing about this is a trait, so it's not like a randomly assigned card. Whereas the other 2 that are face down are. You can see in the deck here that it has new cards, which are shown. Was it Cat Scream is a basic, right? That's new, and I can't see what this one exactly says, but I think it says Wide-Eyed Stare. So you get 2 new basic AI cards.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you're able to integrate the mountain lion into a regular campaign instead of.
Well, again, with the Mountain Predator being a trait and an S card, it would need to be on the actual setup. But yeah, maybe there'll
I think
be
this is
a strain.
a really good way. Well, I think it's even a really good way to showcase just that campaign node selection process that is we've talked about with campaigns of death, but it's like a card that they could include in Black Knight and says like you draw it and you fight the mountain lion instead of a regular white lion for the rest of your campaign.
Yeah. The other
Super
thing
easy to incorporate.
The other thing that's nice about this is if you do these small integrations like this, the Black Knight expansion itself is what's going to introduce this mountain lion, right? The concept of this mountain lion. Now, say when Inverted Mountain comes along, the campaign itself will have a huge campaign book, and that is where you could include, here's how you use the white lion in Inverted Mountain, because Inverted Mountain already requires Black Knight, it already requires Frog Dog, it will already require all those expansions to even be used, so it will just assume that you have access to all these cards. So you could see going forward with these small integrations of turning this into a mountain lion and adding new cards to make it more Inverted Mountain flavored. You could see the ram having modifications to the lope, for example.
Yeah. The mountain lope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Black Knight. Black Knight, out of all of the expansions, is probably, barring Gambler's Chest, is like the beefiest expansion, it seems. Like you flip through, like, Flower Knight rulebook, it's like 9 pages, 8 pages, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Showdown, or the Black Knight expansion book, seems like a
Yeah. This is,
10 plus pages for sure. I don't know how many it is, but
I think it's at
definitely
39.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's like the biggest expansion booklet that exists.
Yep.
If that's the case, and I really hope that's kind of the norm going forward to, with all the expansions. 'Cause
this is a
really
great introduction for Wave 4.
Yeah, 100%. The last note that I have for Black Knight section of this update is that the showdown itself has a kind of cute little detail. During the showdown setup, the monster always has 6+ toughness tokens, and I think that as you fight the Black Knight, he'll lose parts of his armor. And if he does, that would be a reference to the Dark Nuts in Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, because they're also dogs in armor, and as you fight them, pieces of their armor will fall off.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Poots loves Zelda, so...
Yeah. I think that's everything for the Black Knight in this update.
Yes, sir.
Now we just have, the other one. I think the other
dog.
Yeah. We have the, I think we talked about this a little bit because we knew it was coming when they were mentioning the, how, the white lion's a chump. He's a jobber now.
Oh, yeah.
So we alluded towards this because we knew it was there, but this is where you can actually see the artwork now for the prologue for the Gambler's Chest for Black Knight, or for Frog Dog itself, which is, at least in my eyes, this is hinting towards, again, the prologue itself for Inverted Mountain, even though it uses Frog Dog, will be different than what we get with the Frog Dog expansion. And I'm all for that. I'd rather have multiple different prologues than less. So I think that...
Yeah, that variety will really help in like... Especially because you spend, like, most players spend a lot of time at the beginning of campaigns, right? So
yes,
more variety in how things happen is always welcome.
Yes, and you can then tailor the story that's told to the campaign you're playing. Because as right now, it's, besides for the Croc and the Gambler's Chest one, what we were doing is Sun and Star and Bloom and Lantern, they all just use the same exact intro. Everybody awakens. There was no uniqueness. So First Day was different. Or not even First Day was different. Just the Returning Survivors thing was different.
Yeah. I think this artwork's really cool because it shows the Frog Dog chowing down on a bunch of Ark survivors in a Gambler's Chest. So it does make me wonder, like, if the Frog Dog campaign is going to be more geared towards Ark survivors. Like, in my eyes, there's the potential for there even being a philosophy book included with it, right? Because it's...
I don't think so, because they mentioned that there wouldn't be.
Where did they mention that?
Gen Con interviews and stuff, they said that the philosophies are probably not going to be in its expansions outside of the
Yeah,
campaigns.
I see. I don't believe that because I think they said like they'll be included when it makes sense to include things, and
Hmm.
I think that this choice of having a box with Ark survivors like kind of sets the stage. But it also makes me wonder, like, would you require the gambler's chest in order to use Frog Dog in that case, right?
You would. In order to use it as Ark survivors, you would require the gambler's chest.
But I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if there was some like a lot of Ark Survivor centric content included in Frog Dog.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised
Maybe
either.
don't expect it, but there's potential there. I don't think this isn't again, it's not a mistake when they do stuff like this, right? Or
No, I don't
there's
think so
there's
either.
usually a rationale behind making artistic choices like this. There's two other comments that I thought were interesting.
Oh,
Q&A wise, the Ivory Dragon is a quarry monster, a nemesis monster, and a finale monster. I think that's pretty crazy. So being
yep.
able to hunt like the Satan part of Ivory Dragon, like that's a huge monster, right? Like that was like what, like 4x4, 5x5, like massive. You saw the model in person, right? It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, and then the Gate Guardian or whatever it ends up being called is the nemesis monster, and then the story that's going to have to happen for those two like monsters to culminate into one being that you fight as your finale or core or whatever is wild. There's not much to like. It'd be all speculation and kind of like fanboyism maybe, but like I it's I think that expansion when it comes out in about 30 years is going to be
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Yeah. There was also a comment about the Legendary Card Pack 2. Adam said no, there wouldn't be one until later 2024, so that they can gather kind of fixes from gamblers' chests that need to be done, like the outskirts settlement location.
I would
In
hope
my
so.
opinion, I think in my opinion, I think there's already enough content between the white box content and the core game and the expansions that needs to be fixed. And that any kind of like gambler's chest fixes could probably be even pushed into a legendary card pack 3. I just feel like if they take too long between releases, these card packs can get pretty like unwieldy, I suppose, right? Like
Yes, it needs to come
it's
out
going to be
before
a
Campaigns
card.
of Death, because Campaigns of Death will probably have a whole bunch of other stuff that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, it's going to be like a card box at this point,
Yeah,
but
I would agree.
we'll
It
see.
needs to get out sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And then you're going to skip over the whole sale.
There
So,
wasn't much to talk about, I thought.
bro, we're doing a Lantern year in review. You can't skip over the sale. So in the sale, the Black Knight expansion was put up for pre-order. We
Yep.
also got additional content released. Echoes of Death 4 was re-released, but really only released officially because, as we talked about in the last video, it was kind of sold out immediately during the post-Gen Con sale. So
Yep.
now it's up for sale. I think it's still available in the store. I haven't picked it up yet. I need to pull out my credit card for that at some point. We also got the beta release of Dark of Star, who came with the Cenobite Lantern and Cenobite Leotard gear cards. Those ones were interesting because they synergize really well with the Lanternism philosophy from GCE. And then some
Yeah,
of the
they
releases
synergize really
that,
well with Dark Impulse.
yeah, they're made to, yeah. The releases without content from this sale were the Painter's Scale Mini of the Pinup Honeycomb Weaver, Death High Moss, and Death High Senior Alistair. This was Alistair with the motorcycle, which was like a crazy miniature,
Yep.
very outside of typical Kingdom Death style, right? We don't really see vehicles or anything like that.
No, there was
So,
supposed to be like that future white speaker on a like on a futuristic motorcycle. Wasn't that shown once? Never happened.
oh yes, I remember. Yeah, it was like a Akira reference, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it was I can't remember if it's a white speaker or if it was a Twilight Knight, but
Yeah, I can't remember either. I'd have to look, but yeah. So this was an officially released motorcycle, though. So this is last video I talked about the archival remaster for Saker. Talked about Stone Wrecker. We talked about the Silver City Octopus. this is also probably one of the best miniatures released by Kingdom Death in 2023. Like, it is such a cool mini. If I had any kind of painting skills, I would have picked one up, but I don't, so I'd rather other people who are better than me have the opportunity.
Yep. It is an amazing mini.
Okay, now we can move on to update 110, the Halloween update. We're almost there. We're almost to the end of the year.
Yep, so this had the this was the update that said the Showdown board is done being tooled. And it should be shipping to us soon.
Yep, in production.
Yep.
Starting from the very top, though, there's a little detail that I noticed in this that I think is very interesting.
Oh.
If you look in the little trick-or-treat Halloween, Allison, cheesy Lucy kind of fun art at the top there, look at what Sylvania is holding. She's holding a plastic ore vein tile.
Oh, is she holding a plastic ore vein tile? I thought it was just one of the tiles that had all the lanterns on it.
Yeah, I thought so first, but it is completely an ore vein. It's got the face that's like got the big bulging eye, and the whole right side of it is covered in crystals growing out of it.
Oh,
They're not
that's
red.
interesting.
I think that is a very, very solid teaser that we will get plastic showdown board terrain for the plastic showdown board.
Interesting. So next we go.
It's valuable to look back at this stuff, man. It's like,
Yeah, this I didn't notice. Again, I did look at what she was holding because I did see that Lucy's picking up the piece that's missing. So the piece that she's holding is not part of the board. I did notice that, but I thought it was just one of the ones that had all the lanterns on it from a part not shown, from another part off the table or something. But you are correct.
yeah, I think that's big. That's a big thing. The next sliding down, like it's kind of a smaller thing, but we do see a piece of artwork for an upcoming piece of Frog Dog gear. I think this is going to be like a Frog Dog armor charm, like how we got the Phoenix armor charm in Gambler's Chest. So something that'll buff like the Frog Dog set, especially because we get like the Frog Dog and then the Bullfrog Dog fight. So something that'll extend the validity of that armor set or weapons or something into the later game.
Yep. So this says
yeah.
Black Knight's finished, Frog Dog's finished according to this, Showdown board's finished. Remember, this was an October update. We're recording this in January. Stuff's finished. We should be getting it soon. We'll find out in, hopefully, a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think it'll be as soon as we get our update for January. I think we'll have confirmation that stuff will start shipping for Showdown board and Black Knight at least.
I agree.
Probably Frog Dog in February or March, probably, I imagine.
So here's the interesting thing I noticed upon revisiting this was the Showdown board here. They have removed the magnets.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that the other day, how excited we were for magnets. So those are gone.
Those are gone. I don't know the benefit of removing that. I mean, it's not like they were including the magnets. I don't know. I had no expectation of them giving me magnets. Never would I ever expect that. Like, because I buy a lot of other terrain for like D&D and stuff like that. But it's just nice to have the circle. And if it was already tooled, I don't know why you would remove it. I was perfectly fine in getting the magnets myself, but sucks that that's removed.
Really, though, nothing's stopping you from just hot gluing a magnet to the bottom of this tile, right?
No, nothing is. But, I mean, with the circle being there, you just had to pop them in.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So that's cool. It's nice to see the stack here. Nice to know that it should be easy to set up once you put them inside this thing. Would have been nicer to get a piece of sheet metal to just put on the back of that. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And and then we have Black Friday hype to end this update. And we had shown the people of the Mirror Stone, which eventually this artwork we just got released this Christmas, right? We don't even know we haven't seen her yet, but this is the new beta girl, correct?
Yeah, this is Edlin from the Christmas release.
Yep. So this is the people of the Mirror Stone. So hopefully we'll see what she has soon enough.
Well, I actually think this is like a huge teaser as well, because they showcased Edlin's artwork in Black Friday, and then a couple months later they released her as a beta miniature. So I think the content that she includes in her beta content is like straight up just a teaser for stuff that'll be included in Campaigns of Death, like the
or Mirror Stone specific
earrings.
Yep.
Yeah, the Mirror Stone earrings and the fierce paint that she includes as beta gear. 100%, I think those will show up as non-beta gear cards in Campaigns of Death.
I agree.
So I thought that was pretty cool, like going back and being like, oh, wait, we saw her already. So this update, I feel like it has a lot of really tiny hints at things they're coming in the future, between like the plastics board terrain and then Edlin.
I agree.
So that was it. That was a small update, Halloween update. Conversely, the Halloween sale is not small. The Halloween sale is massive. Probably the biggest amount of content that's released each year. There's a lot of white boxes that have gear cards and pattern cards and such included. The new releases that we got this year were Basara and her like Smog Singer cards. The King's costume continued the line of seed pattern monster cards that we got with the Flower Knight costume Survivor, as well as the Halloween Survivor Series 2. And then we had the beta release of Sylvania, which included Secret Fighting Art Joyless and the Compact Quiver gear card. Bra has spoken about those in another video, so we won't go over them too much. Encore content-based releases were Devil Satan, Urza of Deadheim, Halloween Pinup Twilight Night, the Halloween Ringtail Vixen, the Halloween Survivors and Series 2, the Halloween Flower Knight costume, as I just mentioned a second ago, the Halloween White Speaker, and Oktoberfest Aya. So there's like on Halloween, if there is pattern cards that you want to load up to, that's the best time to start kind of beefing up your pattern card and seed pattern card deck. Some of the new non-content releases were the Painter's Scale, Pinup Twilight, Halloween Twilight Night, the Necromancer Archival Remaster, and that also came with a Painter's Scale variant, as well as the Halloween Lucy, which is the cheesy mouse Lucy. So yeah, Halloween is a huge period of time, lots of content. Hopefully the other holidays will be able to catch up soon enough.
Yeah, usually the Christmas one or the winter one, whatever, that's usually got quite a bit of stuff too.
Yeah,
and Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, Valentine's Day. I got to pick up Scoopy Club this Valentine's Day, actually.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
As a little bit of a PSA, some of the Basara orders didn't include their cards, their gameplay cards inside of them. I didn't get my gameplay cards. But if that happened to you, just make sure that you send Kingdom Death support an email, and they'll send them out. I'm supposed to get mine at the end of the month here, so yeah, just as a little PSA, if you didn't get your cards, make sure you get them.
Yeah, always contact support if you're missing something. I guess I'll just toss in another PSA. If you ordered the tokens on Black Friday, the tokens they are not right. They still included Percival and not Urza, so I'm just getting mine at the end of this month as well. So, ever notice anything, always reach out to support. They're very good.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Second last update of the year, Black Friday.
All right.
This was
we got to take a break
111.